All right. Hello and welcome to the newest episode of GW Basketball Insiders. Obviously, I'm Liam O'Murchu, David Korn. And GW men's coming off a tough loss to Mason. And then before that, a tough loss to LaSalle. So, David, you were at the Mason game last night. Why don't we just start off? What do you think about that game and kind of where the team's sitting right now?
I mean, I think the biggest reaction was that was maybe the worst half of basketball, offensive half of basketball I'd ever seen in the first half. Mason went into the half up 19-13. So it's not like either side was really doing much. But the fact that it was a 2-possession game when GW had scored 13 points was truly, truly shocking. But I mean, I think the big thing was, again, like I think the game against Mason was really sort of a microcosm of the season for GW, really good defense. And that was really exciting. And that was fun to watch how well they defended. Spurts of offense, which again, like they did sort of after the 10-minute mark of the second half, they looked really good on offense, but again, couldn't sustain it for a while. Poor 3-point shooting and poor late game execution. So I think those are all things that have been common themes throughout the season. They all reared their heads against Mason in the second matchup of the regular season. And a really disappointing loss. GW is up with about a minute to go, and they let it go away. In the final minute, they couldn't really get any shots up that were really anything sort of – they weren't really able to execute on any late game situations and get any good shots up. And just another really disappointing loss to George Mason, a game they could have won, a game that they had in hand in the final minute. And, I'll have your take on this next because I have a lot more thoughts, but I want to hear your take as someone watching on TV.
Yeah, I mean, like you said about the first half, it was difficult to watch. I went upstairs and to eat dinner at halftime, which is what I've been doing on these Wednesday games. And my mom was just like, "So how's the game going?" I was like, "Really bad. It could be so much worse, but it's very difficult to watch." So you mentioned the 3-point shooting, 3 for 25 from 3. They've been the worst 3-point shooting team in the league in conference play by over 2%. They're averaging 28% from 3. And for what it's worth, if they shot 28% from 3 last night, they would have won. And I feel like there's been a few. Yeah.
Well, if they made one more 3, they probably would have won.
Well, yeah, exactly. And there's been a few games this year where it's been similar to that, where it's like, wow, this was a horrible 3-point shooting performance or free throw shooting performance, which was also bad last night. And it's like, well, if they had even made one more, they would be, they would have given themselves a much better chance to win. So
technically UMass is a worse 3-point shooting team. I just need to get that out there. Technically UMass is shooting 28.2%.
Okay, but just in conference play, GW is worse.
Oh, I wasn't looking at just the conference play numbers. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what's really concerning for me though about this is that I don't have just the conference. I have the whole season statistic, but it's given how poorly GW is shooting, they're 6th in the conference in 3 points attempted.
Yes, and that was something you saw last night. They took 25 threes. I mean, 3 of them.
And I feel like there isn't, and I know this is easier said than done because you need spacing to make interior baskets easier to get, but I think at a certain point, you need to realize that GW is shooting themselves out of these games by not being able to make these threes. And you can't just hope that Gerald Drumgoole is going to have his hot shooting night, which is basically at this point 1 out of every 3 games. And I think that's a very unsustainable and risky and honestly irresponsible strategy to sort of bank on.
Yeah. And no, I absolutely agree. 25 of their 47 shots were from 3 last night, and they made 3 3-pointers.
And I know this coaching staff is very sort of happy about the shot diet. I know that's the term they've used a few times in press conferences and how it's very efficient when they're only shooting threes and layups and dunks and stuff. But I don't think that's very efficient when you're shooting 30% from 3. and you're taking such a high volume and missing such a high volume.
And
I think that something needs to be done, and I think if you can't make the threes, I mean, I don't know. I just think I like to think about this is going to be a very deep dive niche reference, but in about 2021, I think I would listen to an interview that Barack Obama did with Bill Simmons. All right, and this is I think I have my time right, but anyway, it was a great interview. They like really talked ball, which I think is fun. That someone like Obama can like actually get into the nitty gritty of like NBA basketball. And one of the things he said was that he loved watching Giannis Antetokounmpo and disagrees with the fact that people are saying that he needed to get a three ball and thinks he just needed to get a mid-range shot. And that if someone like him is good enough where he can just extend his game out just a little bit, that's still enough to make defenders cheat and still get those inside baskets of his. With GW, their inside game is awesome. Rafael Castro is, again, one of the best interior scorers in the conference. Buchanan, who we'll get into a bit later in the program, should be one of the best interior scorers in the conference. Christian Jones has shown that he can drive and finish with both hands, which is a skill that I don't think really any freshman in the country really have. Any freshman point guards can really.
It's like any mid-major freshman. I'm sure.
Yeah, like at this level, it's pretty
is.
rare to see a freshman being able to like really drive and finish with both hands over a defender. So that's been really
finishing with both hands is a big addition.
So basically, what I'm getting at is if the threes aren't falling, like yes, analytically, like mid-rangers and deep twos are bad, but step inside the arc a few feet and see if that helps, because that'll still open up your inside game, and making maybe 40% of these twos instead of like 28% of these threes would be better for your offense. So I'm not saying they should do that. I don't know. I'm not the coach. I'm just in this case, I'm literally just like the talking head here, but I think something needs to change to unlock this offense. And I think it's pretty, it's pretty upsetting if the best they can do is just hope the threes fall when statistically it shows that they will not fall at the rate they need them to fall at.
Yeah, I think the really frustrating thing is that they're missing open looks. And like these issues would be papered over if they do like a screen and flare for Sean Hansen on the wing and he hits the open three, or like, Gerald Drumgoole comes over a screen and gets like what for him, someone in their sixth year who shoots a lot of 3-pointers, it's like that's a shot he should in theory make. When you miss those, that's when the problem comes. And so on the broadcast last night, Jimmy Patsos was saying that he likes to track these sort of open looks, like how do they do with like open looks. And I think he expands it to like be like open layup or like a good quick like inbound play and they get like an open layup. Do they make it or do they miss it? And also like open threes. And I think like a little bit into the second half, maybe halfway through the second half, he said that they were like 0 for 8 or 0 for 10. Like that was, to me, that was the issue. It's like they're missing these looks that they're like, the coaches are drawing up good plays, or they're like the actions are good. Yes. And they're just missing the shots. So it's like, I'm not really sure what you're supposed to do.
That's what I'm saying. So if they can't make the open three, like that sucks and that's upsetting. Yeah. But then you need to figure out a different way to score.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And, you can still have the three as like the kick out option, open three, you take it, end of the shot clock. Obviously you need to take the three, whatever, drawing up sometimes. But I think at this point, the focus needs to be more on getting people open under the basket. And
yeah,
again, that's tough that you've put yourself in this box now where you're a volume 3-point shooting team that doesn't make any threes. So teams will now be sort of expecting that. But I think enough time, I'm going to do a Caputoism here. I think enough time has passed in the season, and I think water has found its level. And the level is this team is not a great 3-point shooting team.
Correct. Yeah.
And I think adjustments need to be made, and adjustments have not been made. And I think that's really tough. Here, I put together some numbers of the all of the recent losses, all of the losses in 2025 that GW's had. Here's how they've shot. So yesterday against Mason, they went 3 for 25, shooting 12% from 3. And Gerald Drumgoole went 0 for 5. Against LaSalle was their best three-point shooting performance in a loss this year. 8 for 26. Drumgoole went 4 for 11, but there are a lot of other issues that game. And
it would have been a
LaSalle
lot better if they took like 5 3-pointers that they missed, like heave 3-pointers in like the last minute.
So and Deuce Jones went nuts in that game.
Yeah.
And
A-10 rookie of the year, Deuce Jones.
Yeah, at UMass, they went 5 for 21, 23.8%. Drumgoole 0 for 6. The first game at Mason, 6 for 27, so that's 22.2%. Drumgoole 0 for 10. And then the loss against Duquesne, 5 for 18, 27.8%. Drumgoole went 1 for 8. So for me, I think there's a pretty clear pattern of, in most of these losses, they shoot way below their already below average shooting rate, and Drumgoole has some volume misses.
Yeah.
So
20% of the threes that they have made in conference play came in the Dayton game. They made, I mean, that was a crazy 3-point shooting game. They made 15.
That's the thing, though, where it's like, that's what's so frustrating, is it's like, if they make the threes, they can beat anyone.
Yeah, but they're not a good 3-point shooting team. So.
No. And so that's the thing, because they're so good defensively. It's like,
yeah. The other thing with I guess this kind of fits in with the 3-point shooting, is it looked like they were scared to take the ball inside on Jalen Haynes often, which, like, you know, he's a good defensive player. And don't get me wrong, Mason is an elite defensive team. Mason is the best defensive team.
I think this is the best defensive A10 team I've seen.
Yeah.
Like the way they're able to chase people around the perimeter. What I thought Tony Skin addressed this a bit in the press conference, his scheme against Castro. So basically what he did is he put the power forward Zach Anderson on him for most of the time, and then had Haynes there to like sort of like hovering under the basket-ish to rotate in as a double if needed. And so I thought that was really smart, because that sort of forced Castro to play more like on the not even perimeter-ish, but like deeper in the mid-range than he usually likes. And he sort of always had Haynes there in the back of his mind. So I thought that look was really interesting against him and really sort of frustrated him. And again, just a great personnel move.
Played pretty well. I thought Castro still was pretty good last night.
Yeah, he was still the best player. But
the other thing is free throw shooting. This is their 7th straight game where they've shot under 70% from the free throw line. Like
real deja vu at the end, right?
Yeah, I know. Well, and that's what I have in my notes here. It's like, it's not the coaches who are missing the open threes or free throws. Are there things that that the coaches could be doing better? Sure. Yeah. There's always things that can be done better. But like when you're 71% free throw shooter, who's like incredibly hot, like having a great game, having a caught fire the last, 8 minutes of the game, when he steps up to the free throw line and you're down 1 point and he misses 2 free throws, like, is that the coach's fault? You know what I mean?
I mean, like, I think I've said this before, but I find myself having a tough time getting really worked up over free throws.
Yeah, it's just frustrating when they happen in like that sort of a key spot where you can like look at it and be like, well, if they made that free throw, then this game.
But it's just one of those things where it's like, I just don't know what the answer is. Like free throws are something where it's really either like a mental skills thing or like just a work ethic thing. And I don't think those are really coachable. Like from everything, all my understanding is that these players are given pretty much unlimited access to gym time and GAs and managers to help them with this stuff. And if that's not enough to get their free throws up to at least a league average level or an acceptable level, And again, my understanding is also these players are like taking advantage of this.
Yeah, they were a good free throw shooting team last year. So but like last year, they didn't get to the line as much as they did this year.
Yeah, because this year's a lot more like of a interior team.
Yeah. It's just the free
it's
throw
really frustrating. It's really frustrating because you look at this defense that is so good. And it's been years since GW has had an elite defense. And so that's really fun to watch. And again, they've lost so many of these close games where you look at it and you just think, man, like, LaSalle, 6 points, Mason, 3 points, first Mason game, 3 points, Duquesne, that was a one possession game until the end. Like, Richmond was also super close. If they just were able to make a few more shots and just have a little bit more offense and a little bit better late game execution, there's a real world in which this is a 2-loss team right up there with Mason. And, well, actually, no, if you beat Mason, they're not there. So there's a real world in which this is a 2-loss team in second place in the A10 right next to VCU. And again, I'm not trying to go play like, oh, if this happened, but I'm just saying it's like the margin isn't that far. But the reasons why they lost these games have become so clear, and it's become a pattern. So it's clear that it's an issue that's big enough that's like these losses are. I think that it's clear now that it's not just like unlucky that this team is losing these close games, and that there's a clear issue with like the late game execution, 3-point shooting, free throw shooting, whatever it is.
Defensive rebounding too wasn't as much of an issue last night, but against LaSalle had more offensive rebounds than GW had defensive rebounds. It's like that's not an acceptable thing. There were 2 times that LaSalle missed a free throw and like easily got the rebound. Like that's not. And Caputo said this in his like post game sort of media availability, which was in like a very small hallway, which is kind of a vibe. But anyway, he said that like not boxing out on free throws is unacceptable. But it's like you said, like this team is 4-6 and they could be 7-3 or 6-4 or, whatever, pick your numbers. If their 3-point shooting was even a little better, if their defensive rebounding was better, and if they could execute late in games. And sure, yeah, there have been times where like the ball hasn't bounced their way or like the referee hasn't made the call that we all wanted him to make. But yesterday, Drumgoole not getting that shot off and Jones not taking advantage of the mismatch on Haynes that's bad late game execution. The same way that are you talking about the shot clock violation from Drumgoole? Yeah. That was that was not. It's especially frustrating because like they keep losing these games, especially to George Mason, which like frustrates me. Like, just I'm gonna be honest with you.
It's not even like that it's George Mason, but it's like because they're having a great year, right? And people are talking about them as like a potential bubble team, and they're saying, "Wow, they're so." But it's like GW's been right there with them, and
like, does that make you think like, oh, well, GW, they're better than their record indicates? Or
I think that makes me think George Mason's worse than their record is. But
yep. Yeah, I'm with you. But their game against VCU is going to be interesting.
I think VCU is going to kill them. Yeah, like, I really think.
Oh, it's on CBS Sports Network? All right.
I really think. I think it's crazy that you can't get CBS Sports Network on Paramount Plus.
Yeah, it's a con. It's
I think that's crazy that like something in the CBS umbrella is not available on Paramount.
It's not national television. I said this the other night on Twitter. As far as I'm concerned, CBS Sports Network is not national television.
All right, Liam, quick power rank your favorite like broadcast situations for A10 basketball.
Probably like me personally right now.
Yeah, like if you're watching, if you want to watch a game, what are you most excited about to see which network it's on?
ESPN Plus, number 1. Number 2, Peacock. Number 3, USA Network. Number 4, CBS Sports Network.
I'd probably go.
I guess they have games on ESPN 2 as well because of
that's like Friday 10.
Yeah, I'll put that above CBS Sports Network, but below USA Network.
I agree. I like ESPN Plus. It's easy. I know I can get it. And I do love watching everyone's ESPN Plus broadcast. Like, I think it's very
mid. Yeah, people complain. It's so much fun when like
I agree.
It's so awesome.
And like you get some stuff sometimes, like last year when GW was at Dayton, where you just get these complete like jokers who like really and like it's annoying, but it's like funny. Like this is the only like level of sport where that kind of thing happens. And
Well,
it's
exactly. It's like I want to watch a broadcast that like makes me so angry I have to mute it.
And
like
I love watching the Rhode Island students do the broadcast. Like that's so much fun.
They hit a 3-pointer with 12 minutes left in the first half. Sebastian Thomas, bang! You're like,
and it's great. And like I love that stuff. So I'm gonna go ESPN Plus. Then I'm gonna go ESPN 2 because I do like Friday 10, and I think ESPN does a pretty good job with Friday 10. And Mike Corey and Robert Lee always are great. Then I'm gonna go Peacock/USA with the chance to hear Dr. John Giannini.
He's great. I was upset I didn't get to hear him for the LaSalle game because I know
I think always does an incredible job on color with the A10. Does a ton of research. I remember he was on the call of the GW VCU game last year where Bishop hit that the buzzer beater or not the buzzer beater,
the last late game execution that they've like successfully had.
No, but I don't even think that was. You just gave it to Bishop and he did something. So
that's true.
But he again did. I always like listening to Dr. John, and then CBS Sports just because it's always difficult to get that up. I do like the fact that they have like a studio show for that, but I still prefer the other ones.
Get it out of here. Get it out of here. Let's see. We already talked about Christian Jones a little bit. He was awesome for that like middle part of the second half until he then committed 2 backcourt violations in a row. That I mean, the first one was a backcourt. And like I don't know why
it looked like one on my end.
It was 100% a backcourt violation.
He
did it literally right again. So that was frustrating. And then he misses the 2 free throws and then he turns the ball over when he has the mismatch on Haynes. So he's a great player. He just plays out of control sometimes. But
I mean Christian Jones is awesome. He's really.
We talked about the finishing with both hands. Fun to watch.
Yeah, and I think he's a guy who if he gets that 3 ball a bit better, like becomes a bit more consistent, maybe is able to get it off a little quicker. Because I know he has kind of a unique shot where it starts a little low. And I don't think that's an issue, but he just needs to get off a bit quicker. And I think if it gets off a bit quicker and just at a bit higher rate, Jones could be a real guy, like a real building block.
Yeah,
and that's
I agree.
Exciting. And people forget, redshirt freshman, 3 more years of eligibility for Christian Jones. That potential is really tantalizing.
He's at 34. He's almost a 35% 3-point shooter. So, like, he's still a pretty good.
I take out the Dayton game.
Okay. Well, that would require me doing
exactly. But again, I think the Dayton game, like it's done for a lot, is inflating it just a bit. Which again, he still shot it there. So I think I'm not saying it's like wrong, but I'm just saying, Christian Jones shot 5 for 8 from that game.
Yeah. I'm going to say something I've been saying all year. If the guards could get to the basket or finish at the basket or create something driving to the basket better, then this team would be so much better. It just seems like half of these guards going to the basket are like, it's like, seems like an automatic turnover. They're going to get it blocked or something like that. And it's just like, it's just hamstrings his team so much.
Yeah. And it's just a shame. And
what are you gonna do?
I just think what's really frustrating is, do you know what the answer to like all of these problems is that we're talking about with this team?
James Bishop?
No, I mean, no, I don't think so actually.
Defense wouldn't be as good if he was on the team.
It's Garrett Johnson. Like Capito says this every press conference, but like it really is. Like if you're able to put Garrett Johnson at the 3 on this team, or maybe even the 4, like with the way with Buchanan's little disappearing act here. If you're putting him at the 4 on this team and you can go truly 4 out around Castro, Drumgoole doesn't have to take these shots at this volume and gets a lot more open looks. You have Christian Jones, Trey Autry, Drumgoole, Johnson, all 4 out around Castro. Oh my goodness. What a team.
Yeah.
And Liam, I think this is a great segue into our next segment, because do you know there's a world in which that team could be lining up next year for GW?
Yeah.
Do we think that will happen?
Unlikely. So 46 days until the transfer portal opens. There's a lot of things that can happen in 46 days. There are animals that can have multiple pregnancies in 46 days. That might not be true. We need to get Daniel Frank on here. He could tell us if that was true. Or sorry, they could tell us if that's true or not.
I mean, I bet like a bug could totally have like multiple pregnancies, right?
Yeah, that's true. But
well, I guess they lay eggs, right?
Yeah, whatever. Okay, so we're gonna go through
lifespans of different GW basketball disasters with Daniel Frank. Animal lifespans.
I wonder what would be the length of a pregnancy of the losing streak last year.
Like,
I don't know.
Probably like a small mammal. Like,
fair enough. Okay, so we're going to go through and we're going to say whether we think the players, we're just going to keep it to scholarship players, whether they're going to stay or whether they're going to transfer. This is obviously not including Gerald Drumgoole, who someone said they're trying to get another year of eligibility for him. That's insane. That doesn't make any sense. Maybe if they can do it, sure. But there's no way he has eligibility left.
I mean, they probably tried to get another year of eligibility for James Bishop. Doesn't mean it worked. So,
yeah, that's fair.
If that's the case, cool. I think it's fair to say that Drumgoole will be heading off into the professional world or some sort of low-level European basketball.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. If you didn't see the interview Matt Moderno did with him on this, whatever you're watching this on, whether this is Twitter or YouTube or Facebook, the interview should be.
We're on Facebook.
Oh yeah,
nice. I didn't know that.
You kidding me? I don't know how many people watched actually, but
if you're watching on Facebook,
give us a shot.
Find a way to hit us up. We'll get you some sort of GW basketball themed prize.
Okay, sounds good. A thing of Dribbling George.
Yeah, we'll buy your Dribbling George if you find me at the VCU game on Wednesday and say you watched on Facebook. I'll buy you Dribbling George.
We need to fact check that. Anyway.
Yeah, show me.
People going in and okay. Trey Autry, 2 years of eligibility. If you asked me this question at the beginning of the year, I would have given you a different answer. You need to keep him. He's the best 3-point shooter by percentage on the team, and he's a sneaky good finisher at the rim.
Sneaky good defender too.
I think he has some defensive shortcomings, but like he's a good
player.
player.
People think he's a zero, but I think he's like strong. I think he's like able to stay in front of a guy.
So there's some chatter that he wants to leave and go to a high major, but what that means,
I think Autry will stay. I think he will stay.
I think he will stay.
I think he's carved out a really nice role on this team. He gets a ton of minutes, and I think
he's a perfect A10 basketball, like sixth man, whatever. Like
the thing is, it's like I think it's like I think if he is a high level rotation player on a good team, and I don't know if he is that if he goes up a level. And
probably not.
If the money's here, which I think it should be next year, again, that's not sourced or anything, but I would hope that they're able to figure out some money situation for next year. If the money's there and he's getting minutes and shots, I don't really see a reason why he would want to leave. Obviously, again, nothing's for sure, but I'm going to go with Autry staying.
Agreed. Trey Moss, 1 year of eligibility, obviously just transferred
He's out of here. He got like 6 minutes yesterday. He started the year as the starting shooting guard. Yeah. Really hasn't done much. I think he'll probably transfer down to a low major.
Yeah. Well, he was at
William and Mary was having a great year.
Before William and Mary, wasn't he?
I don't know. I don't think so. He might have been.
He was at South Florida before William and Mary.
Okay.
Does he have another year? I guess he maybe does. Because he's played 4 years, although he only played 8 games his second year at South Florida.
Yeah, that was a red shirt. Yeah.
Okay, it's a red shirt. Fair enough. So he has made 65.9% of his shots from 2-point range and 24.2% of his 3-point shots. And he has taken 15 more threes than twos. That doesn't make any sense.
I think he's going to transfer again. He's going to transfer down. I think he'll have success at that level, but I think this is probably the easiest gone.
I don't know if I agree with you on this is the easiest gone, but
that's a good.
Okay. Next up, Christian Jones. Be big issue if Christian Jones transferred. He, in all likelihood, will be on the A10 All-Rookie team.
Rookie first team. Are there 2 rookie teams? No, there's just one.
There's just one. I'm pretty sure there's just one. Either way, he'll be on the. I think he's worthy of first team. He's clearly super talented, really fun to watch on many occasions. He's had the last few games, more so before this game last night against Mason. Struggled a little bit for a few games, but he's a freshman. He's allowed. I think if you wanted to kind of chase this, he could get Power 5 interest.
I agree.
Whether that is like a good situation at all, or that means that you're like the 9th man at SMU.
So if he was not a redshirt freshman and just a freshman this year, I would say gone. Like, this was great. I'm glad we could help him on his next step. But I think the fact that Caputo last year was able to convince him to take that red shirt and stay with the program, and got that buy-in from him at that point, I have faith that there is some sort of deeper connection there, and he has some affinity for GW, and that gives me more hope to believe that he would continue staying here and sort of want to see it out because of what he has worked on here. And I think that redshirt year is really important in sort of my belief in his desire to stay. And again, I don't have any info on this. I'm just saying, I think in my head, it makes sense a guy who chose to redshirt, which doesn't happen that much anymore because coaches are so afraid that a player is just going to bolt if they try and initiate the conversation about a redshirt. Because people want to play. I think he'll stay.
Yeah. I agree. I really hope he stays. I mean, like, and the one thing that we should mention when talking about this is Chris Caputo last year actually did a really good job of keeping the team together. I think there were a lot of people, a lot of like observers that don't necessarily follow GW basketball on like the way that we do day to day, but still pay attention to GW basketball. That sort of assumed that Darren Buchanan would maybe transfer, or like a few of these players would sort of transfer.
Yeah.
And basically everyone stayed except for Max Edwards. And I think it was a pretty open secret that he was wanting to get out before the season was even over. So, but speaking of Darren Buchanan, this now brings us to Darren Buchanan, who has 2 years of eligibility, who suffered an injury and since has looked like a shell of his former self. It's been like a month since the injury occurred. You've still got people mentioning the injury. Maybe it's having some bearing on him.
I think he's 100%. I
don't really want to be like talking about an injury that kept him out for 2 games a month ago and being like, oh, well, maybe he's still impacted by it. If he's injured, he shouldn't be playing. So I agree. I don't think he's injured.
You go. What do you think?
I hate to like, I don't know. I really I thought it was really cool how in the offseason we asked him the day that they lost in the A10 tournament, and it was clear from the beginning that there was zero thought in his mind that he wouldn't be coming back. He received NIL money. He apparently donated it back to the community. He's clearly proud of being from Washington, D.C., which is, I think, a big reason why he came to GW after being at Virginia Tech. It doesn't look like he just hasn't been as aggressive offensively. He looks like a shell of his former self. And it makes me question kind of how bought in he is, maybe. I definitely don't want to say that he's checked out or anything like that, but there's just some things where I don't know. I get some indications that he's maybe not as. If you asked him at the beginning of the season, would he be coming back next year? it was, probably close to 100% that he'd be coming back.
That or like the draft. Like that would have been the conversation.
Yeah, exactly. And it just really hasn't gone his way this year. He posted on his Instagram story today, like earlier this afternoon, just a photo of like him in the gym with the caption "Free Boog," which is like, believe one of his Twitter handles or something like that, like a nickname or Boogie June Boogie. That's his.
Yeah, I don't think we need to speculate on that. I don't think that's worth.
Well, he shouldn't post that stuff. He doesn't want people to speculate.
So, what do you think? Yes or no?
Give me your thoughts. I think he goes, which stinks, but
I think as of now, if the season ended today, I think
this is why it's like we're 45 days out, and we're like speculating.
These are important conversations to have in this world of NIL and college basketball and transfer.
I guess so.
Because I think when the season is not going the way people expected and people's roles have changed.
I know, but they're like 4-6. Like it's not like they're like in the midst of an 8-game losing streak.
I think the bigger issue is the role changes of people.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I think when a narrative is being talked about how young the team is and how they're building for the future, I think this is, again, an important conversation to have if that's even a possibility. So I think if the season ended today, I would say, yes, he's probably gone. But I still think there's time to reintegrate him into the offense. I think there's still time for him to realize that he is a great player, an all-league player. And because I don't think that guy isn't there still.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I think that there's a world in which, again, GW has lost 2 in a row now. You want to make a change. You want to go away from the three-point shooting. You take out Sean Hansen and you put in Darren Buchanan. And you give him the ball and say, drive to the hoop whenever you can. And you know what? Like that could probably be a good strategy to reinvigorate this team, to get him excited. And I don't think it's the worst idea in the world to just tell Buchanan that, you know what, we're going to try running the offense through you again. And I think if they do that and it works and, GW wins a game or two in the NCAA in the A10 tournament on the back of Buchanan, why wouldn't he come back? Like, yeah, he had a hiccup, but I still think there's time to reintegrate him and for him to realize like how key he is to this team's success. And I don't think it'll take all that much for him to do that. So again, I think there's a world in which he comes back, but as of now, I do not think that world is this world.
I really want him to come back. Like, I want that on the record. Is that
I want him to be successful.
He's a really talented, fun player who's from DC. But
Liam, if he's now just like a 7th man, I don't want that for him.
Yeah, I guess that's true. He would get he probably would get.
He's way too good for that. And I think if Caputo's going away from and really just wants a team that's like 4 out and then a big in the middle, yeah, Buchanan doesn't fit in that. But
yeah,
I think that you have such a talented guy. I think it is foolish to waste that for schematic fit.
Yeah, that's fair. The other thing we should mention is the rumor with this revenue sharing thing next year. The rumor is GW is going to have like significantly more money than they have now.
Are you talking about the Kevin Sweeney tweet?
No, well, I guess, but like that's not. I'm talking about some like further beyond that. Like I've heard that there's going to be more money. It may not be to the level.
I agree. I have heard similar things, and not even just about GW, but again with lots of other.
I think a lot of these A10 schools are going to.
And I think it's going to be a lot better.
Yeah.
And I think GW is going to be in a good spot because even though their athletic teams don't make a ton of money, GW is still a very wealthy university. And new athletic director, new president who has a history of being at universities that are committed to athletics like Clemson. So I think that there's a real world in which GW is a leader in the mid-major basketball space in revenue sharing with student athletes, which would be a huge asset.
Even if they're not a leader, even if they're like slightly above average in the A10.
But the thing is, like a lot of these mid-major basketball schools, don't have like huge endowments.
And they have football. They need to spend money on their football team.
They have to spend money on football, but a lot of them are just smaller. Like it's not these big state schools that
Yeah.
have like all this money or like whatever. It's like I think GW has a real shot at being able to take big advantage of this and really, be able to take it full advantage of this new sort of process.
Yeah. And who knows what it'll actually look like in practice. I'm sure kind of we're all figuring this out. But all right. Jacoby Hutchinson.
Out.
You think he's done?
He plays like 12 minutes a game now. I thought he was going to be a potential all-conference guy. I think he still is a great player, but
where
I
would,
really
where
think
would he transfer to? Like A10 is kind of his level.
I could see him transferring to like a weaker power conference, like a weaker high major, to be a backup point guard there if he wants to do that. Again, I could see him staying at the mid-major level. I'm sure most A10 schools would be happy to have him. Maybe somewhere like Memphis, although Memphis is kind of a mess. I don't really wouldn't
Yeah, I wouldn't advise anyone to ever go to Memphis really under any conditions.
Yeah, but again, I think if this level's good for him, I just think Christian Jones took his job.
His offers out of high school were Bryant, who no longer has the same coach, George Mason, who no longer has the same coach, James Madison, who no longer has the same coach, LSU, whose coach will be fired this year, Maryland, North Carolina A&T, who is embroiled in a betting scandal right now, Penn State, who no longer has the same coach, although they're at Notre Dame now, Pittsburgh, St. Joe's, whose coach might get fired this year, and Virginia Tech.
Pittsburgh would be interesting. Pitt would be interesting.
Yeah, I could sort of see that.
Like low ACC, I think that would be a good fit.
Yeah, and it's like it's local enough where he would still be able to, family would still be able to go to games. So I kind of agree with you. I think he transfers, but who knows at this point. Here's an interesting one. Dion Nessa, 3 years of eligibility.
Stays. I think he stays.
You think he stays?
I think these international players transfer a bit less because I think.
Yeah, that's true.
And again, I think he's been sick. It's not like he's been benched. Like he has been out these past few games. He's gotten run. He's a true freshman.
It's his knee. He's not sick. It's his knee.
Oh, sorry. It's his knee. He
banged. So here's what I was told on Saturday is that he banged knees with someone in practice. And I was informed by a member of the coaching staff that he decided he wasn't playing on Saturday. That is how it was phrased to me.
Interesting.
Dion decided he's not playing today, so he's not going to play. So I don't know if that's just happened to be how they said it, but that was something that I was sort of like, oh, okay. So I mean, it's a knee injury he's dealing with right now. I wouldn't be shocked if he goes, especially if it's sort of a situation where he say that in the first week of the transfer portal, Trey Moss, Darren Buchanan, and Jacoby Hutchinson all transfer. And Dion Nessa's sort of like, oh, I don't know. I think I'm jumping ship.
But also
I'm speculating here.
I think he has a great potential as next year, at least, to be a high minute backup big.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be silly. Here, Liam, we're running low on time. Let's do one more of this. And I think this is potentially the most important player to discuss for this. Rafael Castro.
Oh, yeah. Rafael Castro.
Who are you thinking?
Keegan Harvey, obviously.
Oh, Keegan Harvey, quickly. He's going to have a great time doing a grad year at like an Ivy League somewhere. And
they don't do grad years at Ivy Leagues.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's like why Sean Hansen is on our team right now.
That's a good point. I did know that.
But yeah, he is going to do a grad year somewhere. So you heard it here first.
He'll go like Rice. He'll go like
Rice is a good shout.
Great academic school and get some minutes. And that'll be very happy whenever I see him on my TV.
Yeah, exactly. He's a nice guy.
So Rafael Castro, what do we think about this?
I think you need to back up the Brinks truck and do whatever you need to do to keep him at GW. Like, he has consistently been the only good player on this team this year. Like, it would be a 4-alarm fire disaster and I understand we're in the age of NIL and it's like, yeah, in theory you can recruit. Like, you have this guy on your team. You brought him in with the understanding that he has 2 years of eligibility. He has been better than expected. you have to keep him. You absolutely have to keep him. And I think they do because
and I think he would be inclined to stay because I think he has seen that the grass is not greener at the high major level, where he struggled to get on the court at Providence and really was not able to show that he was a very capable player. And so I think he's a guy who would be more inclined to stay in a situation in which he's getting minutes. I think he has made himself into a professional prospect. And I think it would be silly to risk that trying to go up a level when you could continue staying at this level, continue to dominate, and then get a very nice professional contract at a good league in Europe or in the G League or somewhere else. Babatunde Akingbola got a G League contract.
Didn't he get cut?
Okay, I didn't say anything about getting cut. Got a G League contract. By that logic, Rafael Castro is a first-round pick in the NBA.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
So if I think for his future, for his final year of collegiate eligibility, his success there, I think he should want to stay. And again, if GW doesn't hold up their end of the deal and pay him, like, fine, go. Like, that's not on you. But I think if both sides are doing their part, there should be no reason why he does not stay in Foggy Bottom.
I mean, I'm just scared because some of these high major schools have like filthy amounts. Compared to GW, have filthy amounts of money, and they're every single offseason. This has been particularly the last few years with the transfer portal. They're desperate for a big. They're desperate for like anyone, and especially as it gets down to it, suddenly you never know. Suddenly Rafael Castro with a week or two left in the portal, like able to enter the portal. Like, I don't know. I just get scared because he's a big man and because he's been so talented and because he's playing at that sort of level that a lot of Power 5 schools will be like, oh, well, it's really not that much of a jump. I guess he just needed minutes, or it was the scheme. It just didn't work out at Providence. So I'm a little scared, but I think that he sticks around. Apparently, I heard, he likes playing here. It's like he's playing at an all-conference level. Of course he likes it here. Like, he's going to stay. He likes it here. Yeah, of course he likes it here. He didn't play at all at Providence.
Yeah. All right, Liam, we're really running out of time here.
I know,
let's answer Brendan Fusco's question for us. We've talked about
I don't know. Is the answer to the question? I don't know. Play more teams that have an alumni base.
Curious what ideas you guys might have for the athletic department to make crowds like we saw yesterday against George Mason more consistent. I have been saying this for a long time. Give away tickets for free. That's my thing. Liam, what's yours? Quick.
Play more teams with a large alumni base in Washington, D.C. That's how you get more people in the crowd. That is the only consistent way that I have seen people in the crowd at GW.
I also have another idea. Make for fraternities, make your pledges go.
That's what they did last night.
I know, and it worked.
2,407. That was the attendance. I'm pretty sure that's the highest attendance.
I think it was bigger. I don't know if they counted all of the student athletes that went through the
no, they definitely didn't, because they all come in through the one entrance and don't scan their two worlds.
Yes, so I don't think those maybe 600 people were counted.
600?
Not 600, maybe 200.
You were there. Fair enough.
There's a lot of people.
Yeah. Women's team won a game. Woo, Gabby Reynolds was awesome.
We'll have more women's basketball talk in the next episode for sure. We have some fun stuff coming up with that.
Yeah, we had a lot of thoughts on the men's team, and like the women's team has just been pretty uninspiring this year, unfortunately. I hate to say it, I don't want to like not cover them. They just haven't really had much juice this year, and their coach seems to. Abe and I talked about it 2 episodes ago. There will be a decision to be made at the end of this year whether, the coaching staff should return next year. So we'll see how that goes. Maybe they'll go on a run. They still got like 8 games left.
One thing McCombs is good at, it's stinker regular seasons and then miracle 2 wins in the A10 tournament.
Yeah, that's true. All right. That's all we got. We'll be back probably sometime next week, but we got, Bonnie's on Super Bowl Sunday. Just want to say go Birds, for all the Commanders fans listening. I'll talk to you when your team, your town, the Philadelphia Eagles are the Super Bowl champions.
Well, we don't want to end on that. So Bonnie's on Sunday, VCU on Wednesday. Obviously, if something dramatic happens against VCU, we will come at you with something fun. But
I think they might get. I think it might be bad against VCU.
I agree. There's a world in which it's really bad. But either way, we'll be here to talk about it on the GW Basketball Insiders on the Department of Hoops. David Korn and Liam O'Murchu, thank you guys for listening.